What are the Seattle Seahawks going to get out of their quarterbacks this year under a brand new offensive coordinator? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We are just a couple weeks away from Seattle Seahawks training camp. So, before we get there, I think it's time to try to throw some predictions out there. And this year is going to be really hard. I mean, obviously, this is hard even at the best of times, but it is going to be very hard this year to do this. But it was fun last year. We did it last year, and I had a good time with it. And I think most of you guys had a good time with it as well. So we're going to do predictions for many of the players, mostly the higher profile or middling profile players on the Seahawks team for the 2024 season. So we're going to go box score because that's something that is actually concrete and clear and objective. We all know that the box score often does not tell the whole story, and we will be using other measures to determine whether or not we consider these players successful, but we'll filter everything through the box score stuff. So let's go ahead and get into some of the numbers here. First, real quick though, if you like this video, please like it down below. Click the thumbs up button. It takes less than a second. If you are new, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell if you want notifications whenever a new video goes live. Consider becoming a channel member. Costs $2 a month, less than 10 cents a day. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. So we're going to start with the quarterbacks. And obviously, when it comes to quarterbacks, it's going to be really hard to know what to expect when you're talking about a team that just hired a new offensive coordinator that has never worked in the NFL before. Ryan Grubb, obviously, a lot of us are excited to have him. A lot of us are optimistic, but his track record comes completely from college football. So for us to say that this is definitely going to work, we're obviously getting ahead of ourselves. There are many very good offensive coordinators who either never attempt to go to the NFL or go to the NFL and fail because they know that their style will not succeed. Now, I'm not super worried about Grubb, but I do recognize that there is some downside here. And when you have, even if he works out well, when you have a new offensive coordinator working with personnel that he did not personally pick, particularly at the quarterback position, really hard to make estimates. But we're going to do our best here. I will say I do think that the Ryan Grubb offense fits Gino Smith fairly well. So when I look at it through that lens, I actually feel pretty good about how this might work, but it still has to work. So Gino Smith, we're going to go line by line. Completions, let's see here. I think I actually have to zoom out a little bit before, reset. So 356 completions is what I ended up coming up with on 530 attempts. So not quite as many attempts or completions as he had in 2022, which was his best season, mostly because I think the other elements of this team will be better, so he doesn't just have to throw the lights out in every game, especially at the end of the year. With how bad our defense was that year and with how much we lost in the running game by the end of that year because of injury, there really wasn't an opportunity to do much more than just have Gino Smith swing the ball around everywhere. This year, should be able to avoid that. All right, so you do the math on that. The completion percentage for Gino Smith would come out to 67.17, which is not quite as good as his league-leading mark 2 years ago. It is better than what he did last year, so it's kind of right in the middle of those two numbers. I think it's pretty workable. I do think that him completing 70% of his passes 2 years ago was a little bit of a fluke. Not to say that he's an inaccurate quarterback, not at all. In fact, there are many stats out there that indicate that he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football. But I do think that that was just kind of a few things coming together in a way that we cannot expect to be maintained every single season. So he's not going to get up that high, but he's going to get close. Okay, yards, I ended up coming up with 4,054, just over 4,000. Again, kind of in the middle of what he did last year and what he did the previous year. When you look at Gino Smith the last couple of years and you try to take a look at what Ryan Grubb's offense is probably going to be asking of him, where I do think you're going to see mostly attacking the intermediate areas of the field, attacking the middle of the field. Because of some concerns I have with the offensive line, I don't think it's going to be some metric ton of passing yards, but I do think it'll be pretty good. And I do think that the yak skills that some of our players bring compared to what we had last year should help boost those numbers a little bit. Touchdowns, this is just touchdown passes, by the way. I went with 27. I don't think he's going to quite get to 30. I don't think our offense is going to be high profile enough for that. Last year, I did think he was going to put up borderline MVP numbers because I expected our offense to be super prolific, but that dream died very early when the offensive line got injured. Now, this year, my expectations for the offensive line are not that high, so I'm kind of dragging it down a little bit. He'll be better than he was last year, I think, but I don't think that he's going to reach that level where he's actually like getting MVP votes. Interceptions, I don't see Gino Smith as one of these Aaron Rodgers type quarterbacks who can have a season where he plays all 17 games and only has like 4 or 5 interceptions. That's a very rare thing. I do think that there's kind of a baseline expectation of him throwing about 10 interceptions over the course of a full season if you're putting a decent amount of pressure on him to perform. So I went with 10 interceptions. You plug all these numbers in, the QB rating comes out to 98.3, so just shy of 100, just shy of where he was 2 years ago, but still a very good season that should be enough for this offense to be good and for this team to be good. I also had him getting sacked 32 times, which is actually a little bit more than last year. I don't know if this is really something you can extrapolate based off last year, because he got sacked fewer times last year with both of his tackles missing significant amount of time, including one of his tackles missing almost the whole season. But I just think things are going to shake out to where he takes a few more sacks this year. And I also think we are, as of right now, I do think we are taking a little bit of a hit at the left guard spot, which is very important in the NFL. I mean, left guard is crucial, and we currently have Laken Tomlinson starting at that position. So that really kind of makes me reticent to believe that things are going to be better this year. Even though we get Cross and Lucas back. So that's my prediction for Geno Smith in 2024. It's a very good season. He might make the Pro Bowl, not that that means anything. And while I don't think he'll be getting like MVP vote hype, and by the way, I'm not just pulling that MVP stuff out of nowhere. He did literally get an MVP vote 2 years ago. But it'll be good enough for us to be good. It might be good enough for us to justify keeping him around in 2025. I don't know. It depends. But in terms of just box score stuff, this would be good. This would be more than good enough for us to feel like things are going in the right direction, as long as he's doing things like coming through in late game situations, as long as he's leading game-winning drives, as long as things are situationally solid. So that's it for Gino. And then we got one other quarterback on this team who will make the 53-man for sure. It's Sam Howell. We traded for him. He's not going anywhere right now. So, the injury thing, I'm kind of staying away from, because when it comes to players, unless they're very injury prone, it's really hard to predict that they're going to get injured. So I'm not going to touch that. I'm assuming that Geno Smith does not get hurt and miss time this year. If he does, of course, that changes everything. But I'm going to work under the assumption that Geno Smith stays healthy all year. And of course, because of that, Sam Howell is really not going to do all that much. I kind of just threw random numbers in here. 4 completions on 6 attempts, which gives him a completion percentage of just under 67. 51 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Put him in garbage time when the game is pretty much over. Maybe he takes a sack. That doesn't really inform at all, of course. That's just him messing around in garbage time. We're not learning anything from him doing stuff like that. So, yeah, take that for what it is. I just threw some numbers up there, extrapolating a little bit of garbage time over the course of a season. There are going to be some blowouts. We're going to get blown out in some games. We're going to blow out some teams in some other games. And Howell will probably get a little bit of a look, because unlike some previous backup quarterbacks the Seahawks have had, this is a guy we might view as part of the future, and we will want to take opportunities to see what he can do. The total column, I'll go ahead and reveal that right here, even though it doesn't really matter because 99% of the numbers come from Gino. And that's the way I see it right now. So those are my Gino Smith predictions and Sam Howell predictions. So basically, quarterback-related predictions for the Seahawks this season. Let me know what you think down below. I will be seeing you guys later. We will be doing a series of videos like this over the course of the next couple of weeks before we get to training camp. And then once we get to training camp, we'll actually have things that have happened to talk about. Not just speculation, but actual things that have happened and are happening. See you guys later. Go Hawks.